People often assume older men are alone because they failed at relationships, but the truth is much deeper than that. Many older men are not lonely. They are finally at peace. Society has a deeply ingrained bias. It dictates that to be successful in life, one must constantly be surrounded by people, continuously engaged in romance, and forever bound to the chaotic dance of relationships. When society looks at a senior man who lives alone, who does not date, and who has no interest in seeking a new partner, it rushes to misdiagnose him. It labels him a cynic. It assumes his isolation is a tragedy. But after decades of stress, sacrifice, heartbreak, relentless responsibility, and profound emotional exhaustion, many senior men discover a secret that younger generations cannot yet comprehend. Solitude feels infinitely better than chaos. When a man reaches his golden years, a massive psychological transformation occurs. He undergoes an audit of his life's energy. He calculates the cost of companionship against the value of his tranquility. And once a man experiences real, unadulterated peace, he becomes ruthlessly careful about who he allows into his life. Today, we are going to explore the psychology behind this phenomenon. We will dissect the reality of the aging masculine mind and uncover the 7 undeniable reasons why older men are actively, consciously choosing to be alone. This is not a story of surrender. It is a story of ultimate self-mastery. Let us begin. Point number 1. They are utterly tired of emotional drama. To understand the older man, we must first examine the biological and psychological toll of a lived life. In psychology, there is a concept known as allostatic load. This refers to the cumulative wear and tear on the body and the nervous system caused by repeated or chronic stress. For the first 50 or 60 years of his life, a man's nervous system is subjected to a relentless barrage of friction. He manages corporate politics, financial crises, the complexities of raising children, and the inevitable turbulence of romantic relationships. Let us look at a practical example. Think back to the relationships of your youth. Remember the hours spent arguing over trivial matters, a misunderstood text message, a perceived slight, or the exhausting effort required to appease a partner's fluctuating moods. Remember the sensation of walking on eggshells, living in a state of hypervigilance to avoid triggering an emotional explosion in your own home. When a man is young, his body produces enough adrenaline and testosterone to endure this chaos. He mistakes this emotional turbulence for passion. But as a man crosses the threshold into his 60s, his biology demands equilibrium. His tolerance for unnecessary conflict drops to 0. He no longer wishes to decipher passive-aggressive behavior. He refuses to participate in circular arguments that have no resolution. The older man realizes that much of what modern society calls romance is simply trauma bonding disguised as love. By choosing to remain alone, he guarantees the regulation of his own nervous system. He ensures that when he goes to sleep, he does so without a racing heart. He ensures that when he wakes up, his home will be exactly as peaceful as he left it. He has survived the battlefield. He has absolutely no desire to invite the war back into his living room. Point number 2. Peace becomes significantly more valuable than romance. If you ask a 25-year-old man what he wants most in a partner, he will speak of physical attraction, excitement, and adventure. He is driven by evolutionary imperatives and biological drives. He seeks the dizzying highs of the honeymoon phase, the rush of dopamine and oxytocin that accompanies a new romantic conquest. But as a man matures, his hierarchy of values undergoes a radical, permanent inversion. Romance, by its very definition, requires performance. It requires the constant maintenance of another human being's emotional state. It demands compromise, sacrifice, and the merging of 2 distinct lives. Consider a practical example. Imagine it is a Sunday morning. A man in a romantic relationship must negotiate how that morning is spent. Does he have to attend a social gathering he despises? Must he engage in a conversation when he simply wishes to be silent? Must he alter his routine to accommodate his partner's preferences? Now, contrast this with the man who has chosen solitude. His Sunday morning is a masterpiece of his own design. He answers to no one. He can spend 4 hours reading history, or he can simply sit in a chair and watch the sun move across the floor. To the older man, this unbroken peace is the ultimate luxury. It is a wealth that no amount of money can buy. He has realized that the fleeting, biochemical high of romantic infatuation is a terrible trade for the permanent, unshakable tranquility of his own sanctuary. He does not hate romance. He simply cannot afford its exorbitant price tag anymore. Point number 3. Decades of experience have fundamentally changed how they view human nature. Wisdom is, fundamentally, the accumulation of pattern recognition. When we are young, we approach relationships with naive optimism. We believe that love conquers all. We believe that if we just try hard enough, we can fix a broken partner. We believe that our current relationship is entirely unique and immune to the statistical realities of failure. But the senior man is a veteran of reality. He has lived through the complete life cycle of relationships multiple times. He has witnessed the intoxicating beginnings, the slow descent into routine, the emergence of hidden flaws, and the bitter, painful conclusions. Because of this, older men develop an almost supernatural ability to read people. As a practical example, imagine an older man re-entering the dating pool. He sits across from a woman who complains bitterly about all of her toxic ex-partners. A younger man might play the savior, eager to rescue her. The older man, however, instantly recognizes the pattern. He sees the lack of accountability. He identifies the narcissism disguised as victimhood. He no longer falls in love with potential. He only deals in reality. He knows that people rarely change, and he refuses to be collateral damage in someone else's unresolved trauma. His experience has stripped away the romantic illusions, leaving a highly calibrated radar for manipulation. Because his standards for character are now incredibly high, the pool of acceptable partners shrinks to nearly zero. And he is perfectly fine with that. Point number 4, they no longer require external validation to feel worthy. Society places an incredibly heavy burden on the shoulders of young men. From a very early age, a man is taught that his inherent value is 0. He is taught that he must become valuable by being a provider, a protector, and a performer. He builds his career, accumulates wealth, and curates his personality primarily to become attractive to the opposite sex. For decades, a man's ego is entirely tethered to how women perceive him. A compliment makes him feel like a king. A rejection makes him feel worthless. He spends his life caught in the exhausting cycle of performing for the female gaze. But as a man ages and matures, a profound psychological liberation takes place. He undergoes what Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung called individuation, the process of integrating his true self and detaching from the persona he created for society. Consider the practical reality of an older man. He has already built his life. He has already raised his children. He has already proven his competence to the world. He has looked in the mirror for 60 years. He knows his flaws, and he knows his strengths. He no longer needs a woman to tell him he is handsome, successful, or capable. His self-esteem is no longer outsourced. It is generated entirely from within. Because he has completely retired the invisible provider badge, he refuses to engage in the performative dance of modern dating. He refuses to audition for a role in someone else's life. He has built his own kingdom, and his own approval is the only validation he will ever need again. Point number 5. Solitude feels fundamentally different after the age of 60. We must draw a sharp, psychological distinction between two words that society incorrectly uses interchangeably: isolation and solitude. Isolation is forced upon you. It is the painful, desperate feeling of being disconnected from the world when you deeply crave connection. But solitude is entirely different. Solitude is a conscious choice. It is a deliberate, sacred state of being. When a man is in his 20s, spending a Friday night alone feels like a punishment. He feels a severe psychological phenomenon known as FOMO, the fear of missing out. He believes that somewhere, other people are living a better, more exciting life, and he is failing by not participating. But after 60, FOMO completely evaporates. The older man has already been to the parties. He has already attended the crowded events. He has already navigated the chaotic social scenes. He knows exactly what is out there, and he knows it is largely superficial. As a practical example, an older man who chooses to spend a weekend entirely alone, woodworking, fishing, reading, or simply resting, does not feel a shred of anxiety about what the rest of the world is doing. He views his solitude not as an empty void, waiting to be filled by a woman, but as a rich, fertile landscape of self-discovery. He discovers that he is excellent company for himself. He realizes that the silence of his home is not the silence of a graveyard. It is the silence of a sanctuary. Point number 6. They value radical freedom more than ever before. We must address the stark reality of human mortality. Time is the ultimate, non-renewable currency. When a man is 30, he operates under the illusion of infinite time. If he wastes 5 years in a miserable, toxic relationship, he writes it off as a learning experience. He believes he has an endless supply of tomorrows to start over. But when a man reaches 60, the mathematical reality of his existence comes into sharp focus. He realizes that he is in the final chapters of his life. If he is fortunate, he has perhaps 15 or 20 healthy summers left. With this profound realization, the value of his time skyrockets. He becomes fiercely, uncompromisingly protective of how he spends his remaining days. Think of the practical implications. In a relationship, every major decision requires a committee of two. Where to live, how to spend money, when to travel, what to eat for dinner. Everything demands compromise. But the older man has spent a lifetime compromising. He compromised for his bosses, for his children, and for his ex-wives. Now, the debt is paid. He refuses to spend his final, most precious years negotiating his reality. He demands radical autonomy. If he wishes to book a flight to Japan tomorrow, he does. If he wishes to spend his savings on a classic car, he does. He has finally earned his freedom, and he will not trade it for the chains of a new relationship. Point number 7, and the ultimate conclusion. They have finally decided to choose themselves. For generation after generation, men have been conditioned to be the ultimate sacrificial lambs of society. A traditional man's life is defined by what he can provide, who he can protect, and how much pain he can silently endure for the benefit of others. He gives his youth to his career. He gives his prime years to his family. He gives his physical health to his obligations. He places himself dead last on his own list of priorities for 50 consecutive years. But the senior man who chooses to be alone has reached the end of that specific journey. He has fulfilled his contracts. He has paid his dues. And in the quiet solitude of his later years, he makes the most rebellious, beautiful, and psychologically healthy decision a man can make. He says, "It is my turn." He chooses his own health. He chooses his own hobbies. He chooses his own peace of mind. He stops apologizing for wanting to be left alone. He stops trying to fit into a societal mold that never truly served him in the first place. The older man who prefers to be alone is not a tragedy. He is a triumph. He has learned the hardest lesson of the human experience, that a man cannot truly love his life until he learns to love his own company. He has faced the abyss, conquered his demons, and built a sanctuary out of his own soul. To the younger men watching this, do not fear aging, and do not fear solitude. View it as the ultimate destination of self-mastery. And to the older men watching this, the ones who have been judged by society for choosing the quiet path, know this: you are not broken. You are not weird. You are simply awake. Never let anyone shame you for fiercely protecting the peace you spent a lifetime bleeding to build. If this video resonated with you, I want to hear your story. Head down to the comments and tell me. At what age did you realize that your peace was more valuable than a relationship? Your experiences will help guide the younger men who are still fighting through the storm. If you found value in this deep dive into male psychology, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you for watching. Until next time, guard your sanctuary.